Joining us now to break down these numbers is America's accountant, Dan Geltrude. He's also the founder of Geltrude and Company. Also, David Ragland, IRC Wealth CEO. Good to see both of you this morning. I'll start with you, Dan. This is the first day of trading in May. What are your thoughts on the activity we're seeing so far on this kicking off this new month?
You know, Shaun, I think it's hard to really look at the market on a daily basis and really try to do super analysis on it. I think that we have to look at what the trend is in the market. And right now, this week we've been up, we've been down. And for the most part, I think it's relatively positive news that we're not trending down overall. I think the other thing we have to think about related to this market is how much the Fed has actually propped it up. You know, we could say, look, given the fact that we are in a recession-like period and there's a lot of uncertainty related to what's going to happen next with coronavirus, I don't necessarily think that we're in a bad place from the market. But as I said, the government has provided a lot of stimulus and low interest rates, and, that's certainly helped the market to this point.
Yeah, so to your point here, to wrap it up really quickly, it could be a lot worse than what we're seeing, Dan.
No question about it.
Great point. David, I want to bring you in on this. Several U.S. airlines now reporting massive losses in the first quarter now. We'll show you these numbers. I believe we have these to show you about how much the airlines are losing. I'm talking American here, $2.2 billion. Guys, United, $1.7 billion. Delta, Southwest losing millions here. Your reaction to this, and what is this going to continue, David?
Not unexpected at all, because obviously the ridership is down below 25%, so they're flying planes empty right now. The bigger concern for the airlines today is what people are thinking about in the future. So when you look at their revenue or their balance sheets, no one's booking flights into the future because they just don't know when the virus is going to allow us to travel again. So without that booking in the future, we're losing that cash deposit back onto the balance sheet of those carriers. And obviously, when you're looking at American and United, the huge losses that they're incurring are even coming with decent January and parts of February. So if you're looking at the airlines, obviously you want to stay with the premium class, which would be a Delta or Southwest as far as individual positions go.
Well, that's a good point. Dan, why do we see a difference in which airline it is? You see those big losses with United and others, but then you see Delta. Both of them are, all of them are losing right now, but not as big. Some are in the billions, some are in the millions.
Yeah, it's like anything else. It all depends upon how companies are running their business. Not all airlines, just because they're in the same industry, in the airline industry, doesn't mean that every company is going to be run the same way. If you look at United, through the first quarter, they're burning through $100 million a day, although they're projecting to be at $50 million a day in the second quarter. It's still not great, but you have to look to say, how are these companies being run and what's their efficiency in difficult times like this?
Yeah, moving into this point, what was done prior to COVID. Great to keep in mind as well. Some of you may have seen this out yesterday. It made news. Looks like Geltrude's weekend plans may include filing for bankruptcy. Filing Chapter 11 seems to be an emerging trend among major retailers. Neiman Marcus just last month reportedly filed for Chapter 11. David, is this an indicator of what's to come? We all know these big names. Again, Geltrude is one of the ones that made headlines yesterday.
Right. The strong get stronger, the weak get weaker. We're looking at the strong being obviously Amazon, the weaker being the brick and mortar retailers. You've got JCPenney, you got Geltrude, you got Neiman Marcus. These companies that have weak balance sheets as well as other items, weak balance sheets, low online presence. From that standpoint, you're going to have a significant problem trying to keep the business in business while, we're in this process. Some of the other mid-retailers, is it Macy's, is it Gap, are these other retailers going to be next on the list? That's what we're really watching right now.
That was my question for Dan. Your final thoughts.
I think that we are going to see an unprecedented amount of bankruptcies coming up in the year to come, because brick and mortar, as David said, is under enormous pressure. Amazon is getting stronger. So unless these companies are going to figure out how they can retool their businesses and be able to compete online post-coronavirus, they're just simply not going to make it.
Finding a new formula. Yeah. We appreciate it, guys. Thank you for that insight. That's America's accountant Dan Geltrude and David Ragland, IRC Wealth CEO. Good to see you. Stay safe, guys.